Okay, this is a look at the bow, sort of the business end work, where he's going to do all those making the money during tournaments. Okay, we've added quite a bit to this trolling motor. This is a Lowrance Ghost trolling motor, very quiet, very powerful, and well made, rugged. Okay, so what we added is that we changed the original Nosecone, which originally just gave you down imaging and straight sonar, with a side imaging one. This allows us to do Ghost 360. He's got a few scratches on here, but still doesn't affect the performance much. Okay, so all this did is it bolted on. It's basically a 5-minute job. 10 minutes if you do it the way I do it, which basically is I add some silicone, food grade silicone, to the seals, so make sure it doesn't get water infiltration. But you don't really have to do that. I'm an anal person, so. So what we got on here is we got 2 active target transducers, and we got the 360. So one active target is set up in dedicated scout mode. This one is mounted to the trolling motor with this band clamp, okay, using the mount that comes with the unit. Okay, so you can see it's horizontal, facing forward and facing slightly down. That's just the way the mount works. Okay, so the cable is routed onto the shaft, okay, here. The second active target is mounted approximately 6 inches off the trolling motor head, away from that, so we don't get much interference, and it's also down a little bit from here, so we got good clearance. Something moved. So anyway, so we got the strap under here. This, now we have the 360. The 360 is mounted on the Bass Fishing Electronics mounts. The one thing I like about that, this is movable here, so this is on your adjustable shaft, so it can rotate and slide up and down. This is fixed on the fixed portion of the shaft, and this one gets mounted above the head. Okay, and so everything, once you get it lined, you basically line it up, put it on the angle you want, tighten it all down very tight, and you're good to go. The other thing with the 360, again, make sure that this piece here is oriented straight off the bow. Okay, it's got to be in line with the stern. Okay, so the way to do that is obviously drop the trolling motor while you're installing it, line it up, and then tighten everything out. So what I used on this is, if you look over on this side, okay, I use this type of cable clamp for the active target cables. These cables have a significant amount of wires in them. If you over tighten them with tie wraps, which I have seen, it's a good possibility you're going to break a cable. Okay, once you break that cable, you have to get the transducer repaired. I've only seen one place that will actually repair cables, but other than that, if you treat it gently, you're good to go. So these cable clamps are kind of nice. They have the tie wrap that goes behind the cable. Cable is actually in a little rubber piece right here. You can see that. Okay, so there's no stress at all on the cable itself, but it keeps it in position on the shaft. Okay, so, and then when I put these together in this loop here, I have this kind of gentle. It's not very tight. Okay, it's just tight enough to hold them together, but not tight enough to clamp them. All right. So more down on the business end, we also, the Hyrdrowave that I mentioned earlier in the bow discussion. This is the Hyrdrowave. What we did, because the way it works, because I had to mount the Hyrdrowave so low on the shaft here, I didn't really want to put it on the motor because I had the skeg in the way. Okay, I couldn't bring it up the shaft because I had the transducers in the way. So what we did, we pushed it as far down as we could reasonably, and I used a broken active target mount because someone, when they originally did the boat, they broke one of these mounts. So I just used the back half of the mount that was broken, and we put band clamps on. Now this thing is solid. It's not going anywhere. So that's a little trick you can use if you have a broken mount. Basically, to bring it off, square it up. Now it's all in line with everything. Okay. So if we're moving further up here, now the cables come off the trolling motor. Okay, there's no need to attach them here. I mean, you could attach them here if you wanted to. I typically don't, because that way I've got a lot of movement. This is a precision sonar, or actually, I forget the real name, but basically I got this from Precision Sonar. I'll be making some of these with a slight modification, actually with quite a bit of modification later on. But basically the advantage of that, you can put all the cables through there. It's big enough, definitely big enough to put 2 active target cables and the Hyrdrowave cable through it. So that cleans everything up. So coming out the 360 head, one thing I've noticed, and you guys want to keep an eye on if you have a 360, this grommet here tends to come out pretty easily. Just keep pushing it back in. Make sure it's always pushed in. You don't want to get water in there. Okay. So I came down the shaft a little bit, actually not down the shaft, but down the power cable. And what we use is a troll jacket. I believe is this a Bass Fishing Electronics? Yeah, it's a Bass Fishing Electronics troll jacket. Okay. So that goes around all the cables. Again, I've got 2 active target cables. I've got a Hyrdrowave cable, I've got a power cable, and a 360 transducer cable coming out. So all that goes in the power jacket, and it's pretty clean that way. Okay. And what I did notice is that when he had the trolling motor installed, they had put the original clamps on here from Lowrance. They fit in these 2 holes. It was causing some interference with this cable, and also we don't use it with this trolling motor cable cover, so I took them off. So that basically, we just tested on the water and everything's nice and clean that way. So if we go back further on the trolling motor, another piece that I got from Bass Fishing Electronics is this solid metal mount. And what it is, it goes under the what's called bounce buster typically on the trolling motor. And ghosts have a tendency, if you're on some boats, I mean his is pretty tight, but some people have it a little bit looser than that. In rough water, there's a chance you may actually pop this right through the front deck. Okay, I've seen it happen. I've talked to people that were running on the FLW tour. They're having issues with that too. So once you put a metal plate on there, you're not going to have that problem ever again. Okay, so let's look at the other side here. This is the 0.1 antenna. Okay, I prefer to mount this on the bow, so it's almost directly over top of your trolling motor, okay, and center lined with the boat, with the arrow facing forward. So basically it's in line with your big motor, okay. The advantage of that is that now if you reference this unit to this GPS unit, it's referenced to your trolling motor essentially, okay, big plus. Disadvantage is that you can't use this for heading sensor for your console units, because you'll get magnetic interference from the motor with the magnets in there, okay. So just be aware of that. The other thing is that originally the Lowrance Ghost antenna was mounted here. What I did is I mounted it, moved it over to the area over here. You probably can't even see it, but pretty much it's back under here, okay. There will be clearance once the cable is dropped. In fact, in the other video, the bow video, you should have seen it. So that antenna there is the original one. I just simply relocated it, okay. The next thing we want to look at is that he was having some issues with loading. So what we did is I had him obtain a Stoles roller set, and this thing is really durable, really well made. Okay, and you basically call them up, get it set up for your boat, and you minimize a lot of issues you have with rollers, because rollers tend to over time get really soft, flex. Now you're scratching your boat up big time. Okay, so another item we did is he didn't like the steps that came from the factory, so he got these set of boat EFX steps. Okay, now they came with little pieces there, which was basically the material. It had phosphorescent lines on it to give you night accesses, which is really nice, but it was also grainy. So he wanted the cushiony, which is what the factory had. So what I did is I went on Amazon, got a roll of their foam material, and cut it with this crosshatch pattern. Try to get close. I missed a couple, but yeah, it's not too bad. And so this is now what's used there. So now it's a little cushion when he steps on it. So, all right. Yeah, on the trolling motor, I added a Ghost prop anode. Okay, this anode is used for salt water or brackish water. Okay, the idea is it works the same as an anode on your motor, big motor. So it's a sacrificial anode. So if you're in that type of conditions, if you start getting electrolysis on it, the anode will wear away first and will not damage anything else.